Hey YouTube, the usual spiel for this dozens of times now, but if you want to lesson with me, check the link down there somewhere and we'll work something out. Until then, let's talk about what's the cheapest bass trombone I can get. So I see this question all the time, Reddit, Discord, Facebook. I see it on Facebook a lot. I want a bass trombone. I'm in high school or I'm an amateur. Usually one of those options. Sometimes it's a college kid wanting to get a double. And I only have X amount of money. We'll say $800. And let's talk about the answer to that. Because it's not an easy answer, is it? First of all, let's preface this. I am coming from a place of privilege in that regard. I've had jobs, I've made money, I have a collection of trombones that I quite like. Not all of them are exactly what I would want. I'm not that rich, but I have 8 trombones. I can't really complain in that regard, and I am 30 years old, so I'm not 16 trying to scrimp up as much money as I can to get an instrument of some kind. And also I need these for a job, well, once the world starts back up again. I need them to actually perform at a certain level, or there's kind of no point in me having them. So that will color my impressions, both having money and gone through a lot of instruments, and to needing an instrument to be above a certain threshold, or it's just not worth it. So with those things in mind, what's the cheapest bass trombone? What can I get? And my answer is, it's around $1,500. That's the bottom. That's the floor. That's where you get into real bass trombones that are kind of worth having. There are a lot of single bass trombones, especially. I'm going to single you out, single bass trombones. There are a lot of singles out there. This is not a single, but it's close. There are a lot of singles out there that are for sale for less than $1,500. And you may be tempted. And I'm not going to dissuade you that a single valve bass trombone is not a bass trombone. I'd say a single is about 75% of what you get with a nice double. This is also not a nice double, not yet. And that's important. You're most of the way there to real bass trombone. The problem is that last 25% is kind of the stuff that matters. If you're an amateur or a student, you can do most of the things that a single valve bass trombone can do on a large bore tenor trombone, which is a lot easier to get access to and is easily found for less than $1,000. And in the right hands, sounds pretty close to a single valve bass trombone. It doesn't sound the same, of course. Single valve bass trombone, still its own instrument, still sounds like bass trombone. But my answer to those people is to keep saving until you have about double that amount, saying $800, make it into $1,600, and get something that has 2 valves, actual utility, and much more resale value, because everybody is looking for that very cheap entry-level bass trombone that has 2 valves. Not many people are looking for single valve bass trombones, and that's for a reason. They're not as agile, as useful as a single valve bass trombone. I actually wanted to play you guys a little bit more of this. This is the Culver Suite for unaccompanied bass trombone, and I just had to leave out a note at the beginning of this phrase, and I had to not play the next part of the phrase because there are low C's, and I can't really play those on this right now because of this stupid second valve setup. So basically right now it's a single and I can't play bass trombone music. So that's my answer. Don't settle for the single if it's your first bass trombone, unless you're really just dipping your toes in and you're okay with losing basically $800 to own something that you're just dipping your toes in with. Otherwise, I think it's a better financial decision and a better playing decision to save up for a real double that will serve you a little bit longer and will retain more value. Of course, this is talking about the used market, not the new market. And you're like, new market? There's no bass trombones for only X amount of money. Well, there's Chinese land, where we have Wessex and Jinbao and O'Malley and Mac and etc. You know, there's a ton of these companies. Basically, they're all Jinbaos that have been disseminated through different distributors and things. Some of them do their own slight designs, redesigns, and QC like Wessex. Some of them don't, and you're just buying a Jinbao straight from the factory. And those might be worth a little more. The problem is I think the average King 7B clone from Jinbao, if you're getting like kind of the cheapest one, is like $1,500. As far as I know, I haven't checked the prices lately, but I think they're around $1,500, which puts them right at the bottom end of the used market of double valve bass trombones. So why would you not just get one of those? It's new, it's going to be in good shape. Well, yeah, they're going to be new. Doesn't mean they're going to be in good shape. And there's basically no resale value. If you try and sell one for $1,000 a couple years later, everybody knows you can just get the same thing, brand new, for just a couple $100 more. So why would you even try and save $400 or whatever to get something that's probably not going to last very long after that? It's harder to repair. You can just get a new one. So the Chinese market is there. I'm not saying it doesn't exist. I'm not sure if I would go that direction first. And I will be the first person to admit I have bought a Bach 50 B2, a real double valve bass trombone, a nice vintage one, in pretty good shape for $900. Woo! Of course, this was, yikes, like 7-8 years ago. And to boot, one, of course, they'd probably sell for more now on eBay, and two, it had an E-flat slide, not the D slide, and both the F and E-flat slides were completely stuck, and they were pulled out just a little bit too far, so the F was flat in first position, and it did not have split triggers. It was actually kind of like this, and so it was not very fun to play. It was out of tune, and I had no choice but to play it out of tune. And that means you have to have work done to it. So yes, I bought a cheap instrument. Yay! Initial cost is low. But then you have to do at least a couple $100 of work to it. Today, that might mean you find a $1,500 fill in the blank, but it needs the trigger split, and the bell needs to be rolled out, and the slide needs a new tube, and all of a sudden you're in basically what you would have paid for a slightly nicer instrument that doesn't need any work. So my answer, coming from a place of privilege, is that save up a little more. $1,500 is about as low as I would ever go, assuming you can find something for that price. And the single as a first instrument, sometimes it's worth it. Most of the time, it's not. That's all I got. I'll see you guys next time.